The format this evening is the usual one. We have some tremendous content that we'll hear this coming hour from these panelists. Each group will take about 15 minutes, and then we'll have questions. And following that, informal discussion around some refreshments. Some of you, I hope, got a copy of this interesting work of art. How many of you received that and heard about this? It's fascinating. You know, two of the Gospels refer to Jesus' words: the foxes have holes, the birds of the air have nests, the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Jesus was essentially homeless for his career. And so I think it's appropriate the Chair of Christian Thought is thinking about this phenomenon. So very quickly, I want to introduce all of our panelists, and then I'll turn it over to them. On my immediate right is Nadine Lenstra, and next to her is Shannon Jones. And they're going together to represent the Alex Youth Center and their work in the front lines. They represent, in some ways, I think the most unique perspective that we have this evening in working with homeless youth in Calgary day to day. Nadine was interviewed and ranked among Calgary's top 40 under 40 in 2011 in the Avenue magazine. And there she reflected on the fact that some 2,000 youth, she relates to some 2,000 youth in a year in Calgary who are homeless. Shannon is co-worker with Janine and team lead of the program at Alex Youth Health Center. She's also co-chair of the youth sector of the Community Action Committee on Housing and Homelessness here in Calgary. Next to Shannon is Jeanette Wagenlacher-Schiff. Jeanette has degrees from the University of Toronto and Columbia. She is a professor of social work at the University of Calgary. She is a member of the Canadian Homelessness Research Network that is devoted to enhancing policy decisions in Canada that reflect the insights of research on this important issue. Jeanette works with issues of housing, mental health. Prior to joining the University of Calgary, Jeanette worked in New York City in their Housing First program called Pathways to Housing. And then next to Jeanette is Alina Turner. Alina is one of North America's leading homelessness researchers and thinkers. She has degrees from the University of Alberta, and more importantly, she has a PhD from the University of Calgary in the field of anthropology. Her PhD thesis focused on housing among migrants to this city. Before her work as a consultant, from 2008 to 2013, she was an executive with the Calgary Homeless Foundation, an organization that implements Calgary's 10-year plan to end homelessness. She managed a budget of $35 million and worked with both government and nonprofit sector groups on this issue. In 2013, she began a consulting company to look at issues around development and social causes and social change. And finally, on my far right is Stasha Huntingford. How many of you heard Stasha today on CBC? Stasha has degrees in social work, 12 years working directly with young people on the street. She gives presentations on this topic regularly on issues of frontline dilemmas, drug recovery. She authored a book called Radical Hope in Youth Recovery. This past December, when I first contacted Stasha, she said, I can't communicate now, I'm preparing for my comprehensives candidacy exam. So I waited until December 10th.
So I did.
Yeah. And then we got in touch and we were in conversation. Her dissertation focuses on the intersection of theory, practice, and policy. The benefits of having frontline workers evaluate how governments are implementing policy. So I'll turn it over to them. Let's welcome our panel.
And actually, as I was walking, I was running because I was late, along 7th Avenue, and the cold was going in my lungs. I thought, oh, I shouldn't be running, it's going to make me cough, so I'm sorry if I cough. And then I was thinking as I was coming up the stairs, oh, I hope that door isn't locked, I hope that door isn't locked. And it wasn't. So that sort of does put a little structure around my talk, how nice it is not to come up against a locked door when you're cold and in pain. So, thank you for having us here. It's an honor to speak to you on behalf of the Alex Youth Health Centre and the young people we serve. I often speak on behalf of the Alex Youth Health Centre, and I think one of the reasons that they keep me around is because of how much I enjoy talking about the work that we do and the clients we serve. I'm sharing my time with Deneen, who's my boss. This is Deneen. And the way we generally work is that I talk, and she fills in the spots that I miss, and then takes over if I get too emotional and can't form words. I hope our system works for you, and you get the information you need from us. I've spent the last year and a half at the Alex Youth Health Centre as part of a United Way-funded learning initiative that's exploring how we as professionals can help activate natural and family supports in the lives of our youth. So tonight I'll talk a little bit about that and about some of the underlying issues of homelessness that we've encountered, as well as what we offer to the youth based on what we believe that they need. Maybe some of that can inspire you or inspire some great questions on the topic of youth homelessness. I hope by the end of my few minutes that you'll have a better understanding of the issues that we see in working with youth who are homeless and know more about what we're offering to do our part in the issue. On my PowerPoint, I have some pictures of the clients that we serve. Deneen's our program lead, my boss, and a very talented photographer. The Alex Youth Health Centre technically serves youth between 12 and 24 years old. However, some of those 12 to 24-year-olds have children of their own. So the real young ones you see in the photos also become part of our demographic. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is that word, our. Recently I was challenged by another professional on the use of that word, our. The argument from that professional was that these youth belong to someone else. They belong to a family or a community, and after some deep reflection, I agreed that they do. In the beginning, there was a family and a community. One of the jobs of a family and a community is to comfort, protect, and teach children how to become healthy and successful adolescents, and then assist those adolescents to transition to adulthood. For some of our youth, it seems that they have somehow been lost and that connection, from that connection and support. And by the time they get to us, they need to belong back to someone. So we're happy to be that for them, for those that need a place to belong and people to belong to. And we can do that until there is a family and a community to give them back to. For a non-homeless youth, the place that they practice becoming and being themselves is within their families. Testing happens all along their maturation process and is matched to their developmental stages. The first moments of mother-child attachment, the feel and smell of skin, the reactions of family and community to this new person in their lives. The responses to first vocalizations and cries and smiles give an infant information about themselves and where they fit in the world. The way that the family receives the wildly passionate love hugs and tantrums of the 2- and 3-year-olds, or the secrecy and sometimes regressive need for reassurance of the pre-adolescent, all the way to how a family reacts to overt or covert displays of rebellion and quest for independence of the adolescent, is working through a somewhat consistent manner and gives the young person information about who they are and where they fit in. In a healthy family or community, members instigate, encourage, support, endure, barely tolerate, give feedback, and set boundaries for the youth, all the while providing the youth the necessary tools for them to become themselves, and in becoming themselves, make connections to others who then become their supports, and this keeps the family or community growing and changing. For a vulnerable youth, there's some sort of upset, an interruption that does not allow the youth to work through these stages and or get the feedback that they require to realize their potential in their interpersonal relationships. I have a feeling that Margaret Wheatley's quote that said it's all about relationships is true. The upset prevents the youth from getting the support and guidance they require to become and share their true selves with the rest of the world. This may happen because the youth is not able to truly reveal themselves to their families, and it may be that the family or community just does not have the skills to provide appropriate feedback along the maturation process. Now, I struggle with all of the descriptors that we currently have to describe the young people we work with. I mean, look at their faces. Some of the words homeless, vulnerable, street involved, at risk, marginalized, addicted, or in the past, words like delinquent or troubled, might describe the current situation those youth find themselves in, but those descriptors don't even begin to scratch the surface of what has gone on, what is going on, and what is yet to come. All of those words don't seem to do justice to the diversity of the youth that we see. The Seeking Sanctuary study that was done right here in our city identified some push and pull factors that could lead to youth homelessness. push factors of family conflict, family structure, poverty, abuse, neglect, learning and developmental disabilities, and alienation. And pull factors of youth substance abuse, boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, and street cultures. All of these come into play for the youth that we serve at the Youth Health Center. Often one feeds into the other, and to unravel the path and to find the reason for homelessness or vulnerability is like looking for the chicken or the egg. I've come to understand that when I say our, what I want to inspire is an understanding that these are our youth, yours and mine. They are diverse in their needs, and they need all sorts of different things, different people in different programs in different time frames to get them back home. And I define home as a place that is a safe place, that is permanent if they want it to be that, and allows them to do the developmental work of adolescence. So for me, home is not housed. Housed is really, really, really important. Housed is the beginning of home, but homed is much more than housed. We can provide our youth, yours and mine, with what they need and what they require to get there. We are their community, and so can take the steps to care for them. So a little bit about the Alex and what we do to do our part. We recognize how incredibly lucky we are to do the work that we do. The youth who access our services are our teachers. They teach us about loss and grief, about stigma, and they teach us about hope, strength, and resiliency. Every single day that a young person shows up asking for another housing referral, another food hamper, or another hour of our time is a gift. All of our kids have a glass half empty and a glass half full story. We advocate and champion, we encourage and cheer, we guide and we teach and we love. Our young people have potential, so much potential. The part we play in helping them reach that potential is through professional, social, emotional, and medical support. We have medical services 5 days a week and access to an on-site psychologist. We would love it if all our youth were in a position to make and keep appointments, but not all are, so we're very flexible to give them the access they need to necessary medical care. Our medical services include everything that you would get from your family doctor and prenatal care. We also do lots of STI testing, and although that may not seem great when you first think about it, it is important to remember that youth sexual behavior has not changed significantly in the last 30 years, but what has changed are the sexually transmitted infections, rates of infection, and the potential negative health outcomes, as well as opportunities and places for exploitation to happen to vulnerable young people. We also help with resumes, job search, housing searches, education applications, Alberta Works applications, AISH applications, and status cards. We have a bit of funding to pay for ID, and when that runs out, somehow Deneen manages to find other money to still pay for the rest of the youth that need ID. We fill out emergency applications for prescriptions and apply for healthcare-related funding. When those sources cannot provide the funds necessary for medications, we pay for medication that our youth need to achieve their wellness. We have a drop-in that has a table with always has food on it. We get lots of support to help feed our kids, brown bagging for Calgary's kids, the food bank, all of them help, and we never forget that we couldn't do it alone. We have outreach. We have youth workers that attend home visits, court accompaniment, visits in the Calgary Young Offender Centre and in remand. We have placed the highest value on mutually respectful, nurturing, loving relationships with our youth, and we focus and refocus ourselves on the youth's needs and their strengths as a place from which we start our work. We have a worker that focuses on pre- and postnatal clients. We have a community kitchen once a week. We have a mobile team on our bus that reaches out to youth where they're at which we hope is at school. We pride ourselves on being a safe place and safe people for youth to come and access for physical and emotional care. I want to take this opportunity to extend a warm and open invitation for each and every one of you to come and have a tour of our Centre Street location and see firsthand what we're doing there. We all have something to offer to our young people. We are the village, and we can assist the younger members of our city, of our community, to have the advantages that being part of a healthy community offers. To have assistance through encouragement, support, tolerance, feedback, and boundaries so that they develop tools to become themselves, and in becoming themselves, make the connections to others that will keep our community healthy and growing and changing. One of my favorite people in the world has a tattoo that says, "Apathy killed the humans." Thank you for not choosing apathy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring.